a change that was evolving or is evolving in corporate life. And you know, say maybe I heard just the other day that the CEO of Gallup in the US talking about an emotional recession. So that, you know, why is it that engagement in corporate life and in private and public sector, why is it is declining? So when you are an intuitive person, you sense it, maybe even without knowing it. But when you start listening to what's happening inside, or then you start also to connect the dots, and that then the thing losing your job at one stage made me really okay. That was back in 2014, but I need to do something differently. It took a while until I started my own. That was in 2022. But so evolving your own self in order to go out and eventually do what I find that is my purpose really here.
Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes Show. I am your host, Bolaabimbola, frequency alchemist, life coach, and energy practitioner. Daily Soul Bytes is where we bring guests, authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs in the fields of spirituality, psychology, and leadership, sharing their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today I have a very special guest all the way from Denmark, a returning guest, Gitte Madelaire. Welcome to the show again, Gitte.
Thank you so much, Bola. Great pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Gitte, because you joined us in October last year, and a lot has happened. We were just talking when we joined that a lot has happened, and we are evolved selves, a different version of you meeting a different version of me. So it's really nice to see that connection evolving and growing. And our conversation last time was really about energetic leadership, the title of your book, and how leaders of yesterday can become much more attuned to intuition in order to move into that new version of leadership. And today we're going to go into a more evolved discussion around the soul, the essence of leadership. And I'm so looking forward to that. But before we start, just tell us, Gitte, a brief summary of how you left the corporate world. I do want to read your bio actually before we start, because that will give us a bit of an intro into who you are. Gitte Madelaire is an intuitive and visionary pioneer in leadership development, people, customers, business development, and futurism have always interested and motivated her. With a background in corporate business, she now inspires a new leadership through her book, Energetic Leadership, keynotes, facilitation, and mentoring for leaders in her company, Evoke New Leadership. Gitte lived in London, Sydney, and Kuala Lumpur, and currently resides in Denmark. Wonderful. So tell us, Gitte, what is it that really led you from that place of being a corporate leader for many years, and that passion, that drive to know more about that evolved level of leadership? What was it that was driving that particular journey for you?
In many decades, but an increasing frustration about, you know, how things are taking place and how it is to be part of it. So that's more sort of a structural thing. Personally, it also had to do with me losing my job at one time. So giving me a break to pause and be still, and really it was to open up even further. to go back to my intuitive power that I have sort of forgotten or put aside. So you could say that both a personal change, but also a change that was evolving or is evolving in corporate life. And you say maybe I heard just the other day that the CEO of Gallup in the US talking about an emotional recession. So that, why is it that engagement in corporate life and in private and public sector, why is it is declining? So when you are an intuitive person, you sense it, maybe even without knowing it. But when you start listening to what's happening inside, or then you start also to connect the dots, and that then the thing losing your job at one stage made me really okay. That was back in 2014, but I need to do something differently. It took a while until I started my own. That was in 2022. But so evolving your own self in order to go out and eventually do what I find that is my purpose really here, is to be the one trying to inspire people to lead an energetic life and also leadership, either if it's in your own leadership, we're all leaders in our own lives, or if it's as a leader, taking decisions for other people. But it's all trying to understand what is energy about, and how do we navigate within that field.
Thank you so much. I love the way you define energy and leadership, the evolved leadership, because not all leadership in this earth plane that we're on is evolved or is considered to need any kind of evolution. But there are so many who are now beginning to realize that tendency to be very focused on the task, very focused on that individual goal, as opposed to the community goal, as opposed to the collective, as opposed to a deeper sense of guiding, of direction, of communion. A deeper sense of communion is needed. And I think this is really why I loved you coming back for part 2. And I think the very first question that comes to me, Gitte, is what is energy? How would you define energy?
Well, for me, it is it's physics. So to make it very simple, it's all atoms and whatever, but it's something that we can measure now. And because we are able to measure it, we are, as modern people, beginning to understand it again. We intuitively, we all know it when we are born, but for some reason, we need proof nowadays of it. So for me, everything is energy. Everything in this room is energy. And the beauty about that is it's a frequency, and we can measure it. And to me, that, just like you have waves of electricity and whatever, it's the same thing. So everything is connected, just like we see it with wires or whatever. But here it's intangible, it's invisible, but it's there. And energy is also, because we can measure it, we also know that a healthy person like you and me, sort of fairly healthy, have a level of frequency which is sort of normal. If you are sick, it will be lower. If you are like an elite person doing Tai Chi or lots of meditation or whatever, then it would be higher. We know now that we can actually have influence on how our energy is, and how we can heal ourselves. Maybe not from a totally broken leg, but from at least some inner work, and also eventually also some physical pains in our body. So understanding energy is huge. I'm only just started, and I think we all only just started in some way or the other.
Thank you, Gitte. I love the word invisible. That invisible force, that contains information, contains intelligence, that really allows us to perceive different things in that reality, in that physical reality we're in as spirit beings, because a lot of us, we are more connected to that physical self. And we sometimes do not realize that we are actually spirit, we're actually energy. And the forms that we see, the forms that we perceive, are based on the meanings that we have put to things. And this is a very different understanding to different people. I think some people will find what we're talking about very strange, and some people will really resonate with it. And I think our audience will have a good understanding of what energy is. I am a quantum Reiki energy practitioner. So I work with energy, I work with frequency, I feel it, I hear it, I taste it. This energy communicates with us in different ways depending on the gifts that we have. So energy is intelligence, energy is wisdom. And as individuals walking on this life plane, we can come to allow the different forms of energy around us, whether it's a high frequency based on love or low frequency based on fear. These different frequencies allow us to do different things. Fear is not a negative thing, it's how we use it. But it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good as love, So, I know how the frequencies, as a frequency alchemist, I work with my clients to allow them to shift their energy, their internal, that invisible force that lies within them, to shift it with my guides, with my support, with the intentions that we hold, to shift from that place of low frequency to a higher frequency of love. What about source? How would you define source? What is source?
Yeah, what is source? Source is infinity. For me has been that I have surrendered to just being me, being still, being in the energy. Then I've realized that then I have you could say, the connection to source, the intuitive connection, or my intuition will open up, and it will expand my consciousness. So I will be able, but I need to practice, and I need to train, to be still. I've, over the last 10, 12 years, I've going back to also sensing your body much more, understanding what, when we talked about energy before, or we were talking about, I could put words on it like data, we have physical data in an Excel sheet or something, or lots of rational, logical things. But energy and intuition or source is also kind of data. And in order to practice that intelligence to understand what is it, what kind of signals is it that I get that is my source. Some of us can be more visual, some can be, I hear a lot of words, and I actually, even if English is not my primary language, I realize that I get it all in English, which is quite interesting. So source is, it's really the origin. I would say it's life.
Well put. Totally well put. I totally agree. That origin of life that's driving us when we consciously allow it, because we have such free will. And I think a lot of the times we can choose what our source is. We disconnect because of the conditioning that is around us. We disconnect from our true source, which is our spirit form. This is the origin of life. We disconnect from it and we believe our source is the money, is the adulation, it's our goals, it's what is those ambitions, the ambitions that we have. We consider them to be our source. We consider them to be the origin of who we are, what defines us, what creates us. I think as leaders, we really can come to see source in a very different way, and then to surrender, as you said, as you so well put, to surrender and to allow it to drive us. And that takes me to the question of embodiment, because that is what we need to do with source. How would you define embodiment? What is embodiment?
We have all different kind of senses. And when you are able to be still or be able to listen higher, we could say, so that you can sense all the signals. It's like we are kind of an antenna and we get all these information inputs. And if we are too much in our ego or our rational mind and doing things, or even stressed, sick, we cannot hear all that. So when I'm able to be in balance or still, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go and be quiet, but you are sensing. I'm constantly sensing how is it my body is doing. But it's not in a sort of stressed way that I'm sensing it. Like if you have mental thoughts and you cannot relax and you have more or less anxiety from your thoughts and all that. But constantly aware of where your signals are entering your body and what is it that you are getting as signals, but it can also, or signs can also come in different ways. One thing is what is you sense in your body, but it could also be that I see something, so it's something that is outside me. So I get some signs that maybe I've asked for. I would like to see some nice birds. If I'm looking for a special sign for what decision I'm going to make, for instance, or so it can also be in that sense of embodiment. But if I'm not aware, and I don't, I'm too busy in my mind, then I won't realize what's happening. So embodiment is really when where your senses are synchronized and balanced, and you are as open but not in an unbalanced way. So it's but in a balanced way. That is embodiment, and it's such a beautiful word, because in Denmark, in Danish, we don't have a word that it's more like a word. We have a word, but it is not as beautiful as it is in English. It's more like one you use when you're a doctor or something. But embodiment here is, I find it very beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Gitte. I also find it very beautiful. I remember when I began to teach embodiment, I definitely realized for myself that it was something that was very practical. When, for instance, we are wanting to increase the level of income we have, or want to expand our business, and we have the intentions to do so, and we are going about it in a very masculine way, which is about manipulating on the outside, getting the opportunities and pushing ahead, and we're booking up our calendars. We are engaging in a lot of opportunities, and it's endless and it's exhausting. And we stay in the mind. And I love it when you said that you have to still the mind. Embodiment is a pause. It really calls us to step away from that physical reality and to allow the wisdom of source, the wisdom of life force, that wisdom to come within us. So we're wanting to make a lot more money or wealth or build a legacy. And we can come to understand what within me is actually resisting in the very first place. Because the force, the life force that is who I am is abundance. That life force, that energy is already abundant, already expansive. But why am I feeling that restriction? There is a depletion of that energy within us. That is why we need to embody more of it. What are we embodying? We're embodying the energy, the true energy of source. So this is,
and it's also, I find that the source, or the energy from source is much more subtle and quiet. And that is also because, then that means that we have to be even more quiet, not just being quiet in that we should not talk, but also quieting our minds so that we can hear what is being said, because the ego or our own sort of mental jargon will go on, and it's a bit louder. So you really have to sort of slow down that jargon from your brain or thoughts or whatever, to sort of be able to listen to something which is really subtle and beautiful. And I always like it, because when you get information from source, then it's also something that you cannot figure out. Sometimes they would use words that you would not use. And it's very interesting, and especially me, that I get it in English, and sometimes I get words that, wow, I don't even know what it means. I will just check out what it means, and then the synchronicity in what is being said is absolutely wonderful. So that's it's such a beautiful thing, opening to source.
Yeah, definitely. And that place where we find ourselves, where we are very much doing, going, making, maneuvering, engaging, we need to do that. That is so key as leaders. It's so key as mothers, as fathers, as entrepreneurs. It's so important for us to seek, to be curious, to take action. And it's also important for us to understand that other side within us and how we come to that place of balance. If you could tell us, Gitte, going from that place of being a seeker to a place of embodying source even more, tell us about that process a bit more.
I was told in 2019 that I was going to write a book. And I thought, well, I'm not a writer, I'm not a journalist, I'm here in my corporate life, and what is it? But on the other hand, that was, you could say the ego, the doer, saying things. And then there was another part of me, which luckily I was listening more to. And even if it was both a very uncertain and also very, you could say not so lucrative and in many ways, but it felt so right to go that way. And I sort of slowly moved in that direction more and more and more. So for me, it has, back to embodiment, it has been trying to sort of, not that I've been down with stress or anything, but calming down a system, because it's all about the nervous system, inevitably. So calming down, getting to know your body, getting to know yourself, getting to know your senses, and slowly sort of, really it's like, even if, like when we have broken a leg or something and we need to recover. So it's really recovering your own body from what it was when you were born or 2 years old, and then finding back into yourself. And then for me, it was, I think I intuitively knew that there was something bigger than I could put words to. And it has taken me years to, find the voice to actually say it. So just the fact that I'm also, like you read in the bio, I'm actually saying it, I am an intuitive and I am visionary, and I can sense it and I can see it, and I have a purpose in life here to try and inspire people to find the energy to their own leadership, and especially build bridge to the business world.
There is always that uncertainty. Life is constantly changing, and we are constantly changing. The only thing that is not changing is source.
Yeah.
Source is that place of stability, is that place of flow. We can come to really allow ourselves to know that we will continue to seek. We will continue to need answers to one thing or another as we jump timelines. There's always something that we are wanting to know more about, to expand. And consciousness is very thirsty for knowledge, thirsty for expansion, thirsty for experience, I should say, not knowledge, thirsty for experience, to use that knowledge and that information we're getting in a different way. So we are seeking external validation less, and we're seeking connection to source more. So we're still seekers, but it's a difference in what we are seeking. And we know that life will always have its ups and downs, and we will constantly need to have some kind of a pause, especially when we are exploring some trauma or some layer. Yes, we healed some stuff in November, and then December comes and it's like, whoa, what is this self up to? And we need to pause, and we need to seek something. And are we going to seek that external validation, or are we going to seek that internal connection to source. So I love what you said about this is a journey. This is something that is, no matter how much you have worked on yourself or you have come to understand what you prefer to align to, you will always find your place in that, in that experience of discovery. You're discovering something new, and you may have been attending the same meeting with friends for many years, and then on one particular meeting, everything just goes wrong. And nobody's saying the right thing. And as leaders, this will happen. You go to a meeting or a conference, and maybe the same idea that you have put to everybody, or the same idea you've all been aligned to, is not the idea on this particular day. And what do? We know that this is not what we are aligning to. Do we want to seek external validation? Do we want to push, or do we want to pause and go in? And this, I think, is really key when we are talking about that seeker to source. We begin to seek more of source, no matter what, especially in those moments when we are feeling down, when we are feeling misaligned, misunderstood, unappreciated. It happens to all of us. And we can really come to seek the source within us and seek less of that external validation, or seek less of the need to push for a particular agenda, and allow ourselves to be guided. And it's from that place of guidance that we really get our best outcomes, I feel, for not just ourselves. It's like a win-win. Even when we think a win-win is not possible, we are surprised that actually what I thought I wanted was not what I really wanted. And what I thought they wanted was actually not too far from what I wanted. And we become much more open. And I would love us to talk about learning, that process of learning, how as leaders we are constantly in that place of learning, whether we are working with the physical ego self, or we're working more with that conscious leadership, that energetic leadership. We're constantly learning. But how do you differentiate that place of learning to that place of transmitting? What in your perspective differentiates the two?
Learning and transmitting is really, two very opposite things. But we will start to try and be more aware, and also having conversations like, you and I are having, but also within an organization, it's really important to have that open mindset that you would like to involve. And I find it really inspiring, because the younger generation, they are very much more aware, and they are trying to communicate that they would like shifts to happen in the organization or in the leadership, but it's also difficult for them to be heard. So and they can be a little bit reluctant to speak up loud, or is it okay that I say so and so? So learning is really, really, very important, and taking it not just from that it's like we have in both in society, but also in business world or public, private sector, doesn't matter, that it has always been very much about technical competencies that we should learn about. But in the future, we really need to engage in all that has to do with personal development. And right now, a lot of people are doing it, at home or privately, or but it is becoming more and more legitimate to start talking about this kind of education or learning. So transmitting is is hopefully what we will end up with. That we will, we could. Can we imagine a meeting where we sit and discuss, and then we'll take a pause for 10 minutes, and we will all transmit whatever we have coming, and then we will discuss again, or we will find out what is it that the decision is going to do, or we are making an innovative project, or, I can easily imagine that. But when you start talking to people about that, they think it's a little bit advanced. But we will get there. We will. I'm sure we will. We had a lot of tailwind, and the young generation, they're much more conscious.
Love that, Gitte. Honestly, I think there's so many different dimensions, and we're moving from that third density to the fourth density, which has a lot more embodiment of consciousness in it. And we will find the children that are born in the fourth density are much more aligned to that fifth density, which is really the frequency of source, the origin of source. We all have some role to play. We all have something that may be different from one generation to the next, but they need us just as much as we need them. And it's really about how, for me, learning, we are all learning. No matter what age we are, no matter how young we are, we're all learning different things. And there is a time for learning, and there's a time for transmitting, for really contributing. So I see learning more as consumption. So we're really consuming a lot around us, and it's necessary for us to understand, accept, and then we can come to move away from that focus on self to focus on the collective, focus on the community. And there may be times when we need to go back into learning something different, another layer, and that's got to be okay. So I see learning and transmitting, they are going from one level to another. But each time we go, we're learning something at a higher level. And then we're transmitting it. And then we're learning again something that we have not learned before, or we have learned in another way. So we're constantly going through that state of flux, I think. We're learning something, because I'm still learning. I'm currently learning how to run this podcast.
There's always some IT we have to learn.
We had a little bit of a jungle moment when I was trying to get my microphone and stuff to work, and I've been doing it for more than a few years. So that's interesting. The different versions of self that we come to will have something that we thought we had mastered, new to learn, but there's something that we have mastered in that new version, but that new version is still learning something that the other version had mastered. So becoming very easy about the things that are happening wherever we are, in whatever moment in this present time, is so key. As a leader, knowing that I am in a constant state of flux, I'm constantly learning, but at the same time, I need to become very familiar, very accepting of the times when I need to consume less and contribute more. Because it's from that place of contribution that I actually expand that reality that I've created, the experience, because we are relational beings. We're not islands. We have to relate. And it's transmitting that allows us to expand, to relate, to have an experience with another. That experience may be sweet, and it may not be so sweet, and we can come to really understand why it's sweet and why it's not. And this is what I support my clients to do in my 8-week package. I have a quantum renewal package where we're understanding. So the self-awareness you mentioned, I love that. That's the very first thing, learning to understand our own thoughts, emotions at different levels. And then we're coming to be more mindful. Which of these perspectives are high? Which of these perspectives are low? In any moment, we could know that we have both high and low within us. And it's a learning process. And we can come to know that we can align. And that's what Daily Soul Bites, my book, is about different perspectives of different nuggets. And there's soul bites, 31 nuggets that you can really come to activate your own understanding of high and low about that particular nugget. And then you have the integration. In these 8 weeks, you're integrating different aspects of you, because we need to learn about some of the experiences that we have had that made us become more disconnected from our truth. There are different parts of us that we need to come to integrate in order for us to really transmit and expand and connect to source. We have to create space within us by getting to know the trauma, releasing it and integrating it with love, allowing it to surrender and feel soothed. Then we're coming to that place of, understanding that, trauma recovery is something that is ongoing. There are different levels of it. What we released or what we learned to love and surrender last year or yesterday may be different from what we need to do today, and it's okay. And knowing that we just need the tools. We need to learn the tools, new tools each time, what's available to me, what is pointing to me. And then we can come to that place of transmutation. And this is really where we are able to embody a lot more of source, a lot more of that high frequency energy, because we've created that space. And all source needs is the space, the allowance, and it's there, that conscious embodiment. And that allows us to transmit and really relate to others in a very different way. We relate to source in a very different way. So I love that. And I would love to know, I'd love to know more, Gitte, as to how your work really supports the expansion of personal development or corporate development, but particularly personal development of those that you work with, of companies that you engage with.
We need to learn to walk on 2 feet. We have been only using our masculine energy very much, and we need to use our feminine energy. And so constantly try and use pictures that people can relate to, so they can understand how they should find back into their body, to the embodiment. So how do I work with organizations? It can be either a keynote, like what is happening. So I'm connecting what we have talked about today to what is it we see in the future, like future trends. This is not just something that you and me are talking about. It is actually something that you can see if you are interested in the future. You can see how evolution has evolved and what is it that we are looking into. And as a leader, whether it's on the global scene or in a company, you need to understand what's ahead of you. What is it and when we are very much into our work and busy and chaos and everything, we forget to look up also from the phone and whatever. So I connect the visionary thing with the energetic, the more personal development. So really it's those two, looking out, looking in, and combining that to business transformation. And that is very much linked to the individual, but also understanding that when people change, then we are both customers and we are also employees. then everything else in a society or a company will change too. And it's like leaders are not really realizing the enormous change that will happen. We are looking into, economy and also geopolitics and all that. And of course, that's also important. But the movement from people, both personal development, but also that we would not like to see our countries or our companies led the way they are being led, is changing. Because we are getting more power, we are finding back to our source and we're getting the power from there. And that will make us stronger, both spiritually, but also mentally and physically. And that will create not necessarily fights and all that, because hopefully it will happen in a more quiet way. But that is the beauty about it, and that is what really makes it very meaningful for me, because it is to try and how can we create not just companies, but also a society that is much more balanced and much more based in healthy, loving energy.
Growth does not have to come with stress.
No.
Growth can come from that place of infinite wisdom, because consciousness is so thirsty for experience. And when we embody more of the higher frequency of consciousness, we will find ourselves thirsty for more, but from a place of flow, from a place of being led, from a place of transmitting that love, that forgiveness, that expanded heart to others, where being led less by what's in our mind, which is mostly about survival, and we're being led more by what is in the heart, which is a knowing. There's a knowing, there is a certainty that no matter what happens, I will find the answers, I will be supported. And it's almost like being a child again, but it is a growth. A child is it's the fastest time we're growing, and it's the most innocent phase in our lives. We can become much more innocent in that way. And I do want to encourage anyone listening to this or watching this to really be curious about that energy, the energy of source, the energy of the invisible, what we cannot necessarily see. It's within us. Be more curious about it, go into another level of connection to it, using whatever resources are available, whatever practices are resonating or are calling to you, and having no resistance, knowing that we are being guided by our own higher self. This is key. We're not being manipulated. And yes, some people will say, oh, the memes you're saying, or the whatever you're saying when you're scrolling or browsing is actually the algorithms. It's nothing to do with your higher self. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. There is a higher perspective and there's a lower perspective. What if you were being guided by your higher self? And even if you are being guided by the algorithms, you will know if it resonates with you or not. Begin to have less of a resistance to being guided, and you'll find yourself deepening your connection with source, deepening the balance between the masculine and the feminine, because the masculine is needed for that decisiveness, for the boundaries, for the taking action. And you also need that feminine side, which is allowing us to receive, allowing us to pause, allowing us to rest, to ask for help, to think about the community. We will think about the community, and we will also come back to self when we need to, allowing ourselves to trust the flow that is coming. And we will find that we will be driven, we will be thirsty. And in fact, I have to watch out sometimes for burnout, because I get so passionate about things, and the response I'm getting is so interesting. You can do even more in less time because more of you is engaged. You find yourself being able to read, 3, 4 books, the space of time that it would take you, it would probably have taken you to read 2, or 1. You are able to fly more because your mind is clear, and you're getting what you need from the things you're reading, things you're learning. Your mind is clearer. There's less junk. There's less doubt, and there's more flow. So there's so much advantage to being a heart-led, source-led leader, an energy-led leader, that I cannot emphasize it enough. So if this is something that is resonating with you, I do invite you to connect with Gitte, to have her speak or support you in your workshops, because I think this is a powerful evolution of the way we are leading, not just our own selves, but those around us, our community. Any final words that you would want to share to a leader who is evolving or who has some interest in this, some curiosity, to learn a new way of speaking, a new language, a new way of direction? What would be your final words today?
The one thing is look out the window and understand the trends ahead of you. And the other thing is look inside. So be still, take a break, pause, and try and embody your senses. So that's look inside. And the third thing is to act. To act on what you sense or what you see ahead of you, or a combination. And it doesn't matter whether it's in your private life, personal life, or at your desk or in your company. So look out, look in, and act. The 3 tips.
Beautiful. I love that. That's a wonderful balance of the masculine and the feminine as well. Thank you. Thank you, Gitte, for joining us again today.
Thank you, Bola. It's been a pleasure.
Where can people find you, actually, when they want to connect with you, if you tell us?
Oh, yes. They can find me on my website, which is energeticleadership.eu.
Thank you. Thank you again, Gitte, for joining us for part 2.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
As always. And I do want to invite you to subscribe to Daily Soul Bytes Show if you haven't subscribed yet. And I will always be here on Wednesdays to share more outstanding interviews and also to connect with you. Connect with me if you are resonating with the work that I do with quantum Reiki energy healing. This is phenomenal energy that really allows you to raise your frequency levels in order for you to understand a lot more of source and your true self. And also I invite you to connect with Gitte in terms of her work in leadership, her keynote speaking, transforming the language of the leader into a much more heart-based language. Thank you for joining us. See you next week. Bye-bye.